Okay, welcome back. So, how was the assignment? Have you drawn the spinals? I mean the spines? Right. So, let's review one more time. We have seven cervical spines, and this part is called cervical curves, and it is lordosis. Okay. And then we have thoracics, which is 12 piece of little thoracic bones, and this part is called thoracic curve, and it is kyphosis. Okay, and then we have lumbar curve, lumbar spine, which have 5 pieces of the bones, and this is also a lordosis curve. And then we have sacral bones or sacral curves of the sacrums, which are the 5 bones fused together and form into a diamond shape right here. And ending of our spinal columns are the coccyx, which actually combines of 4 tiny little pieces of bones. Between each vertebra or each bone, so we call the bone vertebrae. We have joints, and we also have disc, and then along the spines, along our spines bones or vertebrae. So our vertebra would look a little bit like this. And then we have the transverse process. And then we have holes. And then between each, we also have holes, just like that. That could demonstrate our spine. And then we will have nerves passing through these holes. So you can play with the kids by threading the yarn along these fingers just for fun, as for demonstrating how the nerves is passing through our spines. So we have covered the upper body, the skeletal muscle, the musculoskeletal system of upper body. We talk about muscles of our upper back, and then we talk about the spines and bones of our upper body. So here, connecting and leading towards the lower body, I would like you to take a top overview of these pictures. So we would have one of a really big muscle groups of lower bodies right here. Yes, it's your butt or the gluteus medius. And then on this part of our bodies, there are 2 very important deep muscles that connect our top body and lower bodies together. And it's help in functioning our movements, flexion, extension, lateral side bending, and rotations, as well as it keeps ourselves upright and maintaining our upright posture. These are the quadratus lumbolums, which are located right here. If you are looking at someone's back, you might press your hands on the pelvic, and then you will feel that little holes here. So from here, moving upward, you will find the PSIS of your pelvic. So above this PSIS, it's a very big band that you can feel. So deep inside here, when you touch it and give a little bit more pressure onto it, it's the QL or the quadratus rhamborum. So quadratus rhamborum connects from our spines, our bones around T12 and L1, and then connect to the back of our pelvic. And in the front part, we have psoas muscles that is kind of like, I would call them twins of the QL. So it's starting from the same area of the spine and then connect with the front part of our pelvic. In order to stay upright positions and be able to move and functioning in walking and standing, these two muscles must work all the time. Yes, and in order to do a lot of our yoga movements, flexion, extension, blah, 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 these muscles are absolutely important for our body. Now, from the top, before we move on to the lower parts of the body, this part I would say is the most significant areas of our human body to look at. Of course, other four-legged animals have pelvic as well, but our pelvic is different. And the positions of our pelvic is also different. Why? Because we are the two-leg standing creatures. Our pelvic is slightly flat and wide, and it's also looking very beautiful in a shape of a butterfly. So here is the anterior wheel of our pelvic. If you would put your hands right here on the bony stations of your hips, yes, most of us have it. Okay, you will find a bony point right here of your hips. So this is kind of the tip part of the exercises or the anterior superior iliac spines right here. And then if you move it backward, it's like a curve. So over this part of the body at the back here, it is your PSIS or the posterior superior iliac spine right over here. So sometimes this part is called the wing of ilium because these bones is called the iliums. Okay, and from here, if you're dragging down to the front part, you will find your pubic bone or the pubic symphysis. At the back part, when you sit or bend your knees, then you can touch this pointy bone right here. So it is your sit bone or the ending of ischia tuberosity. Cool, what a fun name to remember. As I say, I'm not a medical student, and we are learning overview of the anatomies from the point of view of yoga teacher. If you would have time, please try to connect and remember all of these names. It would help you, and it will also give more fun to your class when you talk to the kids about the names of the anatomies. Okay, so in these pictures, I would like you to see details of the ligaments and tendon here. You see these our beautiful butterflies bones of the pelvis are all pieces that connect together and join together in many areas. So there are areas that our femur bones of the legs connecting to the hips and the hip sockets, the hip joints, and they are also this part where the pelvic of the top and the pelvic of the lower parts are also connect slightly, and also in the front part of the pubic symphysis. This is a cartilage dose that connects two small curvy bones here together. So when our moms, or if you are a mom, when you give birth to a child, this part is slightly opening out in order to allow bigger space for the head to come out. Okay, right. From the bony stations, if you look at the pictures here on the right side, there are layers of muscles that is surrounded or covered the bony stations, the bony parts of our pelvic. And here is the beautiful psoas that I was mentioning. You see how far it travels? It travels from your spine, slightly connect to the last thoracical spine or the T12, all the way down, passing the pelvic and then passing through again the front part of the pelvic and then connect to the inside of your femur bone or femur thigh. However, not just it alone though. There are also layers of smaller muscles. But so in our training here, I would like to mention only big groups of the muscles that is very important so that we could familiar with the terms and names that we are going to use. Right. At the back part of our pelvic, ooh, very nice, glutes. And we have different parts of the glutes though. Let's start from the biggest one, which is glutes maximus. If you cut this part out, you will see the glutes medius. And if you cut these parts out, the deepest layer of the glutes is called the gluteus minimus. Underneath here, when we bending forward and we feel some tension or stretch underneath our sit bones, it is a lovely string, I would say, of the obturator internus connects here from the curve from the bones of the sit bone. I would say sit bone to the femur. That's why when we do sitting forward fold, you feel different than when you do a standing forward fold because of the tensions of these tiny little strings of muscles that give you different feelings of different positions. So far, let's look at these overall pictures from Ken Hap, which I really like. Okay, so in the front part, on the front wheel, you will see iliacus muscles, which are covering the inner part of the beautiful butterfly layers of our pelvic. And here is the psoas minor, very, very, very small, like a string of a candle. And then we will have psoas major, which is thicker, quite a big piece, and it is very strong. This muscle contracts when we do lots of flexions, and it also helps stabilize our body when we do rotation as well. And it's also acting as a stabilizer when we do back extensions as well. So these muscles here that connect and joins with the psoas muscles, we will call it iliopsoas muscle because it's combined together, it's fused or it's joined together. Around our pelvic girdle here, some of us might feel tension. So these groups are called hip flexors. So we have pectineus muscles, the gracilis muscles, and the adductors brevis muscles, adductor longus muscles, adductor macus muscles, and sartorius muscles. So all these help you be able to move your legs in and out, okay? Actually, most of it are contracting so that you can move your legs in. And then we have the sartorius muscles, a very beautiful muscles that we um, often see on the legs of the runners. I'm not a runner, so I don't have that beautiful sartorius muscles. Sartorius muscle is quite superficial. Okay, so sartorius, rectus femoris is on the side here in a part. So same thing, often see on the legs of runners and athletes. And the vastus medialis muscles, which is on the front part and on the side, okay, and also um, vastus lateralis. So these four groups, sartorius, rectus, vastus medialis, and vastus lateralis, form what is called quadricep or quads of our legs. Okay. At the back we have glutes group, medius, maximus, and medius, and we have these tiny little piriformis muscles here, which sometimes cause so much pain, and then the doctor will say that we have the piriformis syndrome because these muscles, the special about this muscle is that it's so close to the sciatic nerves. So sometimes we get confused between having the pain that is coming from the underuse or overuse of the piriformis muscles, or it is the pain that's passed through the nerves and towards our toe. So if you have pain that runs from kind of behind your butt, under your butt, behind your legs, going down through your heels and your toes, you probably have to consider checking with the doctor to prevent the cause of sciatic nerves. And here at the back, you will see beautiful layers of hamstring muscles, which are biceps femoris, semimembranous muscles, semitendinosus muscles. Oh, sorry. There's a mistake here during the video. Okay, yes. And the so here biceps femoris, semimembranosus, semitendinosus, all these here are the hamstrings. And the quadratus femoris muscles is also connects to our legs and pelvis together. At our back and on the sides. So this part of the muscle is also very important and often cause pain. It is tensor fasciae latae muscles, or the IT band that we know. It connects from around a little bit above the hip bones. The joints of the legs. So around the middle part of your butt, of your side butt, running down towards the side of your knees. So these bands, the actions is helping and assist the movements of flexions, extensions, and lateral or abductions. So this tensor fasciae latae muscle is a very thick bands, I would say, bands of ligaments and very, very tough layers of muscle bands, I would say, ligaments and tendon. Let's look at these pictures. So, When we feel the tensions of our pelvic or pains around the pelvic, I would like you to imagine or think of these illustrations here, because along the lines of those muscles, beautiful muscles, the top part where it's attached to the bones is the tendons, okay? And if the bones are connected together and there are connective tissues that connects bone to bones, it's called ligaments. So you see, it's hardly separated between those things. So there are ligaments, there are tendons, there are ligaments, there are tendons in every part of our body, especially the parts where it's near the bone. So no doubt why we have a lot of pains around the pelvic girdle, such as lower back pain, the pains around the front part of the pubic symphysis, or maybe the pains around the upper legs and the glutes. Because of these surrounding bony structures are so huge and combined with lots and lots layers of the muscles. So ideally, we want to have an upright alignment or a very good posture. So in terms of that, let's look at this picture here to show you how the center of gravity, or the midline that we often say, could relate to the way we walk and the way we stand. If we are carrying the weight, so the weight, usually we could sense an imaginary cueing from that we often use in our yoga classes for the adults, connects to the ASIS or the hip bones, and sends a line towards the second toes in front of you, which is actually the weight-bearing axis of the human gait. In the midlines here, we can also call this midline the center of the gravity line. So if you look on the sides, or imagine you are standing on the sides, we would love to have the idea of neutral pelvis, which means that both the front part and the back part of your pelvic is equally balanced, which is really hard to feel. So you can practice by standing against the wall and try to connect the upper back and the lower back together. Feel the nature curve of your lumbar spines. And if you feel you have too much curve at your lower back, slightly glide your hips in posterior positions, or tucking your tail, or curl your tailbone under. Or the action of the muscle here is to contract and lifting up your pelvic floor and your lower abdominal muscles, right? In order to have very strong balance in standing positions, we also need to look at these layers of the thoracolumbar fascia, because it is very huge and big piece of band that wraps around our body right here, and it carries a lot of tensions, and the tensions is what represents our emotions in a tangible form. So here, going lower to our lower part of the body, we have two legs, right? So we got two arms and we've got two legs. So we can walk and we can stand. Let's review again the primary legs bone. So yeah, we have if you can see the tibia bones and then fibula. So the tibia is on the side, the inner part side, where it's carry lots of weights, and we could feel the transferring of the weight along these bones when we stand in a very balanced structures. Okay, so the toes or the part of the feet that relates to the weight carrying and bearing of these bigger bones is the toes, the big toes, and other two little toes next to the big toes. Okay, so these big bones help help the doctor to measure the growth of the fetus when they are in mom's tummy, and it is the probably one of the most important bones of our body. In ancients of Asian history, maybe Chinese. We are Thai, so I am also a little bit related to Chinese. So we said that this bone is the back, not the backbone, like it's the foundations of our lifetime. It is the longevities of our lifetimes, which means that if we have cracks or anything on this bone, our life could be shortened, kind of. And if you want to have a little bit more extended height, it is also important to give some massage or have them walk a lot so they can grow their height naturally. So this is tibia. Tibia is the bigger one, the stronger one. On the side of the tibia is the fibula. Fibula is the bones that often crack. When you play super hard sports like football, yeah, it's really hard when it's cracked, and it's very easy to break, and the fractures that could create that could be happens on the cracks of the fibulas is quite sharp because this bone is very thin and it's not totally flat, but it's flatter than the tibia. Connect from the legs here. So our legs is not complex, right? We have only three bones to remember. The femur bone, which is the bones of the upper legs, and then the tibia bone, which is the bones that is bigger in our lower legs area or our chin. Okay, and the fibula is the our chopsticks bones of the shins. Okay, and then we have tiny little bones of our feet here, so which are listed in numbers. I will not go through all of this, but if you have times, you probably want to take a look at this. Okay, so that's the anterior part of our feet. Let's look at muscle of our legs. I'm trying to move myself away from you. So, in the front part, we have tibialis anterior. So this one, we often feel tensions of these muscles because it is the most superficial layers, and our legs muscles is long muscle kind types. So um, when it contracts, the only way it's lengthened, it's very hard to make it lengthen. It's okay to make it contract. So we have to use other method apart from movements, which is massage, to help those tightness of the muscle lengthen. Okay, so here tibialis anterior and fibularis longus. So now here comes the anatomy terms of the muscles. As I say, first it will start with the names of the bone. So we have tibia, so it must be related to a tibia bone in some way or somehow. And then we have anterior, which means that this bone is slightly in the front part of our tibia bones. And then we have fibularis longus. So fibularis is on the side here. If you follow my cursor, the fibula bone is slightly here. We hardly feel it. It's somewhere underneath that. And it has one longest muscle that connects or wraps around such bone. So it's called the fibularis longus. And then we have extensor digitorum longus. So if you see the terms of the muscle that is long, it means that the shape of the muscle is quite long. So apart from that, so we're just going to skip some of those. We will focus on the big ones and the important ones. When we look at the back side of our legs, if you have a runners at home or an athlete at home, you would see these two muscles very, very clearly, and it's very beautiful. Yeah, so these are called the gastrocnemius or the lateral. So this is the lateral head of our calf muscles. Gastrocnemius have three. So they have like the side one and the one in the center. And then we have a very long string, long band here. Right here, connect from the back of the knees all the way down to the ankle. And in the side, so actually this part of the tendons or the Achilles tendons, the anatomical term is called calcaneus tendon. It's the strongest and thickest tendons of our body. The main function of it is the movement of the feet. So it is very important. If you are cut, you cannot walk. So these tendons mostly govern and kind of connect with the muscles around the back of the calf. Okay. Underneath there are layers of smaller muscles that connects to the bones. So when we do exercise and we do calf raisings, all of these muscles kind of contact and then bind together or twist together like the inner part of your candle, of the candle. So if we have strengthening them, we will also have more stabilities of the knees and better control of the ankle of the feet. However, if we overstretch them, we will have problems with our knee joints and we will have problems with our ankle joints as well. So find balance. Right. Now, the most fun part. We are going to end our lectures about musculoskeletal system by looking at the upcoming two pictures here on this slide. And I would like you to some way or somehow study and try to have these names kind of at the back of your head. So you will get more pictures of the terms of the anatomies. Let's start from the top part of our head. This area here is the skull. So the muscle of the skull around here is called the occipital frontalis. It's called the frontal bellies because here is actually our belly. No. So this area here is the area when you would fuse your intuitions or fuse your sixth sense, because there are lots and lots of receptors underneath the skin. And our hair here is also the alternus that connects as well through the nerve roots. Okay, from the front part of the head or the forehead, and then we will have facial muscles, which we're going to skip, and the jaw muscle, which is also very important. And then we're moving on to the neck. One of, I would say, very, very important part of the neck muscle is this sternocleidomastoid. So this one connects with the sternum, clavicular, and the jaw part of the body up here. So that's why when we feel tensions, or if we are looking or folding too much, or holding or lifting your shoulder too much, it creates tensions from different types of positions of the upper bodies towards this sternocleidomastoid. And also when we do head flexions, when we lie on the mat and then we float our heads up, you will also feel these muscles tense very quickly. Okay, so here is the trapezius. You can touch it, the beautiful layers of the neck here that you could feel. And this part, if it is too tight, it will lifting up your shoulder, it will tense your shoulder, and it will tense your neck, and it will also restrict your movements of looking upward or extends your neck backward. Okay, and then we have deltoid on our arms, and then we have pectoralis muscles, and then we have so not going to the back yet. Okay, so our pec, and then our abdominal muscles. So our abdominal muscle have 4 layers. The most superficial one is the rectus abdominis, because it runs in a vertical line. It looks like vertical layers. So rectus means verticals, and it's very superficial. Between those, there are strings, and in the center, it's also the linea alba strings, or the fascia strings that connect your sternums to your pubic symphysis, or the pubic bone. Underneath, we have, not really underneath, but the next group is the external obliques, which is really big and wrapped around here, connects to your latissimus and wrap around your abdominals. And then we have obliques, because the muscle is like oblique line or the agonal lines. And then we have internal obliques. So external obliques, internal obliques. These are oblique layers of your muscles around your bellies. And the deepest part is the transverse abdominis, that is run across from here to here, from here to here. It connects and it wraps. If you watch the dissections anatomy, this part of your muscle is really thin. It's just about, let's say, probably not, so the whole piece of your skins and your body muscles, the whole piece all together, it's about 3 centimeters. Yeah, or 3.5 kind of. The thicker layers, of course, would consider coming from the skin part or the thicker layer parts of the fats under our skin. So along the lines of these layers of our abdominal muscles, there are fats, there are fascias that is combined and bend together. So if you want to have a toned body part, it is nice to do a conscious movements, adding all kind of movement around the body that we can do, okay, to help maintain the functions of those muscles. From here, then we have our arms muscle. So the front part, bicep, because it has two heads or two muscles, and then the tricep at the back because they have three heads. And then we have the forearms here, which is called the brachia radius, because as I say, we have ulna and we have radius of the muscles. The ulna is the one that stays still, okay, and the radius is the one that is moving, okay. So when you stand and then you drop your arms down here, if your thumb is in the front, bring your hands behind the back of your arms. You will touch this ulnar bones that is very big. Okay. So around this part of our arms, there are thick layers of the fascias. So when these muscles contracts, it's also pulling or contracting the fascia, which creates the movements of the hands like this. So this is the frictions of the wrist, and same things at the back. When your muscles contract, actually you won't have that much thick muscles here, but what moves your hand is those layers of fascia that contract, and then flex your wrist, curl your fingers. These are all layers of fascias on the hand. So that's why we could release our stress by releasing and massaging our hands because fascia systems govern overall part of the bodies. We'll come back to that later, sorry. And here, the front part, let's talk in a big pictures. Our thigh, front part of the thigh is called quads, okay, quadriceps, because it's composed of 4 muscles on the thighs, okay, rectus, vatus, and sartorius. And then we also have psoas and iliopsoas that connect our top body or connects to our centers of the body, our spines, to the pelvic. And then we have our muscle in the front part that you can see on our along the chin, which is fibularis longus and tibialis anterior. Cool. At the back, starting from here, base of the skull, likely the same names as the front part, the occipital frontalis. Okay, this is the most cleverest muscles in our body. Massage it, you will release the whole tension. And if you want to remember things easier, you just release it a little bit and then study or remembering things that you want to remember. Tips. Okay, then we have trapezius. Trapeze, outside the topest layers of our back muscles, is trapezius. between the scapulas is called the rhomboids. And then we have deltoids that cover the whole upper arms, very nice. And then at the back we have latissimus dorsi that wrap around our body. Underneath is the serratus posterior, and we also have serratus anterior in the front parts. And in the part of our torsos, we also have ribcage. So there are also tiny little muscles along the ribcage as well. Right, so from here, trapezius and then lats. So let's do the arm movement so that you could remember. Trapezius, lats or latissimus dorsi, and then it's connect to the glutes or the gluteus. Okay. Underneath the gluteus where you can feel, so when you kick your legs backwards, let's kick your legs backwards. So here is your hamstrings. The whole hamstrings, just like in the front part, they have 3 muscles. And sometimes you will also add the adductor magnus to the 4th hamstring because it's really tight. Then we have gracilis and gastrocnemius muscles, or the calf muscles at the back. Awesome! So, anatomy of the fascia. Sorry about these slides. So here I have been taking courses with Thomas Myers, and I really love his idea of the anatomy trends, which he talks about the myofascial systems of our bodies. So I'm gonna pause the video of these clips right now, and then the next